Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Duralast. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening and welcome into the breakdown. Well, we've been waiting for it and international football is so close. 6 more days and we will find out just how good this All Black side is. Jeff Wilson, Joey Wheeler in the hot seat tonight, Sir John Kerwin. Are you three going to behave tonight?
He was so annoying.
Always. What?
So annoying last time I saw you. I don't.
Oh, because the mainland got up last week. Oh, and thanks for the cigars. Beautiful. Right. Lovely touch, even though the Blues lost. I enjoyed them.
I know. You.
Thank you, Crusaders.
We weren't going to mention it again.
The Tishes have gone away this week. Jeff, international football is so close. How are you feeling ahead of this week?
I'm a bit lost, actually, on a weekend where I haven't been into the rugby. Yeah. Like it's sort of hitting me that all of a sudden this weekend it's finally here. Ireland are in New Zealand, but I think about some of the other games: South Africa taking on Wales, Australia taking on England, Argentina taking on Scotland, Japan are taking on France, Belgium are taking on Canada, and Fiji are taking on Tonga. This is some sort of weekend when you talk about international rugby and so much discussion, debate, Joey, JK. Look, I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing the first All Black team, this Irish side, what the Wallabies going to put out. Eddie Jones is under pressure. He'll have a crack at us at some point. He's not even playing us. This is some sort of week in front of us, right?
I can't wait. I'm just so excited for the All Blacks to be at home for what is going to be a massive test series, not only for the All Blacks, but also for the Maori All Blacks with those midweek tests. It's just an exciting time to be a rugby fan. And you're right, Goldie. No weekend in the rugby. It was no weekend without rugby. You must have had to reintroduce yourself to 18. I had to with Courtney. It was nice to spend the weekend at home, JK.
Unfortunately, Pharrell has now gone to Italy.
Yeah, exactly. So my wife left.
Because he was home.
Wasn't anything to do with the Blues. Wasn't anything to do with the Blues result. Not that funny, guys. It is. Please.
We've got a big show ahead of us and we've got some burning questions for you three to get stuck into. The first, you mentioned it, Joey, but the 3-match series against Ireland coming up is huge. And then we go to South Africa and play a couple away as well. Is this the toughest start to an All Blacks season that you can remember? Or, JK, is this just what we needed 15 months out from the World Cup?
Yeah, I'd just like to welcome the Irish team here. You've got the Maoris on Wednesday night and then a test match and then the Māoris again. Joey, yeah, I think it's going to be the toughest tour the Irish have ever had. And I know that they want to win down here in New Zealand, which hasn't been done before, I believe. But the interesting thing for me is, yes, I think the Irish team are an incredible, well-balanced rugby side. I think the way they attack is incredible. I know they're at the end of their season, which we've used it as an excuse before, Joey, but I think, yes, this is a real tough one. I do not know who they're going to pick. Yeah. This is us I'm talking about, not the Irish.
I tend to agree, I reckon. In terms of test matches, in terms of building up, you've been harping on about it for the whole year. 18 tests to go. This is probably 12. A great... 12 now?
Well, that's this year.
However many it is.
That's this year.
18? Let's go 18.
You've been
18 to go, but this is going to set the tone for what is going to be a massive, massive 18 months of footy. And I think, no disrespect to Tonga and Fiji last year, but this is going to set the tone for what is a massive All Black season and for what is going to be a run through to next year, Goldie.
We'll find out really, really quickly what we're made of. 3 tests against Ireland, and they're a well-respected, well-coached, well-prepared team. They've come down here at full strength. They're at full strength. All the players that played last year in November, they are here, and they've come here to try and create history. I was part of it in 1996 when you're trying to do something for the first time, and it is motivating, it's invigorating, and they've slipped into New Zealand. They have slipped into the country. We are less than a week away from the first test, and we haven't seen them. They've come here to do a job, but those 2 games, those next 2 games, against South Africa at altitude. This is a team that gave us all sorts of trouble last year, JK. You think about those 5 test matches to start a campaign that is some sort of test for this group. You're going to find out very quickly, like I said, where you are right now.
Well, the problem with Ireland is I believe that they've taken their attack to the next level. The trouble with South Africa is we haven't seen them. So normally we'd go, OK, we've been watching Super Rugby and we've seen their players and we know what they're up to. So I think the most important thing for the All Blacks is that we need to bring something new to the test arena and hopefully we're working on that. The series, I don't think it'll be, I think it'll be well fought out, so it could be 2-1, hopefully to the All Blacks. But then what is South Africa going to bring, Joey? I mean, what have they been doing? Nothing. They're going to play Wales soon, but...
Yeah, that's the big unknown, isn't it? No, that's what's always scary for me when a South African team that you haven't seen for so long, what have they been working on behind the scenes? You know that back home in South Africa, they're going to be abrasive, they're going to be in your face, ruthless as they always are. But, you know, they're the world champions for a reason. And I think coming off the back of an Irish series into that is the greatest test. And over there, you guys would know better than anyone, it is the most intimidating place to go and play.
Well, let's talk about selections, because in just 4 days' time, the first All Blacks team of the year will be announced on Thursday. The first burning question, who will Ian Foster select at first 5? Is this even a question, Jeff? Because everyone has been pumping up Beauden Barrett's tyres all season.
But we've got a reminder exactly what Richie Mo'unga is capable of in the final of Super Rugby Pacific. But we know that's not the test match environment. We know they're very, very loyal to players who've done the job for them. Look, last year, Beauden Barrett, when he got his opportunity on a consistent basis, played really, really well. But this man just showed us against the Blues exactly what he's capable of. Look, I think they're going to settle early on Beauden Barrett. They're going to give him his opportunity. But what they do know is they've got a point of difference. If they want a point of difference, he'll be in the 23, in the match day 23, and he can make an impact. That's the way I'm seeing it right now.
For me, I don't really care who starts in the 10 jersey. I just want them to stick with whoever it is.
That is ridiculous.
Whoever it is, they just need to back him and go, no, I don't.
It's the most important jersey in the All Blacks.
They're both world class.
And you don't care?
What are you
That's
talking about,
like
Joey?
a true lock. He wants to know who the hooker is.
Let me finish why. It's because they are both world class in that jersey. You saw it for the Crusaders. Richie Mo'unga produces the goods time and time again. Yes, Beauden Barrett, maybe in the All Blacks jersey, has done it a little bit more regularly than what Richie Mo'unga has, but they are both world-class first fives. And I don't care who it is that wears that jersey, as long as whoever it is in the first test match is our guy going forward. Give him the trust and give him the confidence going forward that this is your team, drive this team into a World Cup. Whoever it is, Richie Mo'unga or Beauden Barrett, I don't mind. They're both world-class in my eyes.
Well, I think it's a decent point.
I don't mind.
Yeah,
it's very different to I don't care.
He said he didn't
I don't care. Okay, I don't care. Because they're both awesome. They're both awesome. Okay, I don't care. Okay. They're both
we'll
awesome.
talk about the hookers later. You probably care about that. No, but actually I agree, Joe, because the interesting thing for me, if you think about it as a person, I don't believe first 5 is a position that you can mess with. And I think we've learnt that over the last couple of years. So whoever is in the side needs to be able to play and actually play poorly a couple of times and still be selected, because that's when you know you've got the confidence. I think it's the hardest decision out there. I think Ian Foster will go safely, and all the new guys will be going, please win the first 2 tests so I can have a crack in the third one. Otherwise, I've only got 10 tests to go. What are you going to do with Roger Tuivasa this year? Are you going to play him straight in, cauldron of fire, away you go? Or do you go a bit safer? And I think that's the biggest question. Beauden, Richie Mo'unga, actually agree with you. Whoever it's going to be should be there for the season, right?
Mills will be disappointed you're agreeing with him so early in the show. So early in the show.
We've still got time, Jeff, don't worry. Okay. You've been talking about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. Next, we're going to talk about the midfield. What is the combination that you want to see and who do you think will be selected? Jeff, we'll start with you. Is anyone better than Rieko Ioane at centre in New Zealand right now?
Well, their options are actually a little bit thin. With Anton Leonard-Brown being out for the season, it's a matter of who is it can fill the 13 jersey. And behind Rieko Ioane, you're probably looking at Jack Goodhue, and his body of work to date, as he's come back from a significant injury, probably isn't good enough for you to say he should get the starting job in the 13 for the All Blacks. Rieko Ioane, though, had that niggle with his hamstring. I'm a little bit concerned about that. One of my concerns is I really do hope we're not going to play anyone that's not 100% right. That is absolutely fizzing. That's the concern for me. I think David Havili deserves his opportunity at 12. He's elevated his game as a second 5 this year, but there's no doubt I think everyone's on notice.
Yeah, I'm with you. David Havili and Rieko Ioane, for me, need to get the nod. I just think David Havili's astuteness and his tactical awareness around the game, he just does all the simple things really, really well and really, really efficiently. And I think you just can't look past his kicking game. It was fantastic in that final against the Blues, the 50-22, taking pressure off, just turning that Blues team around and tactically going, that line-out's falling to bits, we're going to plug the corners. That's what he brings, a real sound head, a great voice for either Richie or Beauden. So those two for me are my preferred pairing in the midfield for the first test, JK.
I disagree with you both.
Good.
About David Havili, I think he was really, really quiet for half of the Super Rugby, and he came exceptionally right in the last 3 weeks. His performance in the final...
Isn't that when it matters, though? Last 3 weeks?
Yeah, but what you've got to realise is you guys said he was in form all season, and I disagree.
Oh.
Like, for me, he was exceptional in the final and probably played himself into the test lineup. Otherwise, if you're Ian Foster, do you go combinations? Because what he has to do is put Havili with Rieko Ioane and create a combination. Havili was the player of the final, but I do think he has not been at his best early in the season.
So who would you put there? You
I
like
put him
Rieko.
there. I put him
You
there.
would put him there.
Yeah, but these guys sort of came out and said he played well all season.
So you
I didn't
agree?
agree with that. What I agreed with was he was the player of the final, and I believe that combination with Rieko Ioane would be good. But I'll keep going back to Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. When are you going to play him?
Well, here's the thing. They admitted, even when they named the side, and we were at the naming, that he was a player that they were still looking as a project. He was still developing. You can imagine the things that he has seen over the course of this week, and Joey, you're going to catch up with him a little bit later on. But bottom line, I look at the way that he has played and developed. I'm not 100% convinced he's ready for this step against Ireland. If we're up 2-0, no problem. No worry at all. But we've got to remember there's another guy by the name of Quinn Tupaia who last year was outstanding for the All Blacks, did a great job. And in the back end of the season when it mattered for the Chiefs, he was really, really good as well. So I look at it and go, they've got options. My concern right now is where their backup is at 13, because who sits on the bench? Who covers the 13?
Good shoot.
Is it?
Nah. Don't.
Wouldn't
you just push? Wouldn't you
Covers
push
12
Jordy
and
Barrett into 12 and then move David Havili out to 13 if that was your scenario?
Nah, you've got to make two changes. For me,
you don't like two
for me, it's Havili,
Don't like two.
Ioane, and Goodhue on the bench.
What about Leicester? If Leicester's on the left wing,
I don't like
Leicester into...
Yeah,
but just because you don't like two changes.
Joey, you locked, eh? Did you like to change locks, eh? Or you guys?
I used to like going from lock to loose forward.
Yeah, that's different.
Like pushing on the side of the scrum. Yeah,
It's not working hard.
Like every lock does.
There you go, mate.
Well, let's
No,
talk
but
about the
seriously,
loosies then.
No, I think it's really, really important. I think Havili and Ioane, but I think Goodhue, especially with the first test, his experience coming off the bench, he can play 12 and 13, he's got it covered. That's what I'd do.
The loose forward mix, what does it look like? Is Sam Cane and Ardie Savea locked in? And does that mean you're just looking for your six, Jeff?
I think that's the obvious. You think about Sam Cane's their captain. He's getting the opportunity. Ardie Savea was the form number 8 for the All Blacks last year, was inspirational. But it's the combination, and this is where you start talking about it, JK. Has Akira Ioane done enough to complement the two players around them? Are they? If they are going to look for new blood, and they've talked about the possibility of Peter Gus Sowakula playing at blindside flanker, Joey, is that the guy that you look at and go, because there's no Shannon Frizzell. You're looking, or with someone mentioned it today, Dalton Papali'i moving from 7 to 6. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of that. He's a 7. He's a dominant 7. Can play in that position. He missed a couple of weeks. I don't know. I understand it was obviously a big ask for him to play in the final. How physically ready is he going to be for the first test against Ireland after that case of appendicitis? I'm not convinced on that at all.
My makeup, I agree with you on Ardie Savea and Sam Cane. I think you've got to lock those two in. Captain, best player in Super Rugby in terms of loose forwards, Ardie Savea. For me, it's 6. You need a line-out option. You need a line-out jumping option. Tuivasa is my guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is my guy. I just love the way that guy plays. I love the cut of his jib, the way he carries the ball, the ability to offload in the midfield. He pops up in the right places. His athleticism, a genuine line-out option, and that's what we need. We've got two guys, Sam Cane and Ardie Savea, who, they could do a job, but they're not going to pinch you a line out like Tupu might be able to. And he's got something a little bit different that I like. Akira Ioane, brilliant. When he's going forward and he's in behind a dominant pack, we've seen this All Black pack. It hasn't been as dominant as we used to. I thought in that final, in tough conditions, we didn't see the physical beast that we want to see from our 6 in my eyes. So I'd love to see them try something different, but I think with putting my astute selector's hat on, I think they'll go with Akira Ioane. But I'd love to see Tupu Vai.
I knew you'd make sense when you started talking about the forwards.
Thanks,
That's
mate.
all I'll say.
Thanks.
It did say cut of his jib, though. There's not a lot of jib around. I wouldn't be using
look at that, mate. You're on fire
I
tonight.
wouldn't be using that.
It's changing though, isn't it? Joey, you went inside the All Blacks camp today to catch up with a couple of our newbies. I'm surprised you got let past the gate.
Yeah, so am I. Amazing. Yeah, they let this riff-raff in. Unbelievable. Yeah, I've managed to sneak past the All Blacks security and get into the All Blacks hotel, and I'm joined with two newbies, Lester Whanganuku and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in the All Blacks environment. Roger, we're going to start with you. Yep. How's your first week in camp been, mate? Has it been everything you sort of dreamt of and expected?
Yeah, definitely. Everything is above and beyond. I always thought it was going to be crazy here, but it's the minor details that, that buzzes me out. Is they've got everything covered here, and, it's crazy, and I'm just, grateful to be part of it.
And for you, Lester, you've obviously been in some world-class environments. I think the Crusaders, 6 titles on the bounce now. Tasman Marco, obviously, as well. But what have you noticed about this All Black environment? Is it the intensity just lifted a little bit more? What have you seen so far?
Just touching with what Roger said. Obviously, the game, at this level, has continued to grow, and in the meetings and on the field, you can obviously see that with the micro detail they put into the game, with their skill drills or the structure of the game we're playing. Like Roger said before, that's the detail. That's something that's really, opening my eyes and really absorbing and challenging myself with. So yeah.
Roger, you've made an outstanding transition back to rugby union after being in league for such a long time. What have you struggled with in terms of transitioning back into the union side of things?
Probably I'm front line now. At the league, I was playing at the back. I was playing fullback, so I was making like 2 tackles a game. Where now I'm making up to almost 15 a game, and that was one of the stats. And definitely hurting the shoulders a bit more these days, especially trying to tackle Leicester. But no, it was definitely the front line stuff and defensively and breakdown. Just trying to work out what's legal and what's not. One day someone gets red carded, the next day it's play on. So just trying to work out that area.
As long as you don't stand up and play the ball, mate. Lester, for you, you've gone back-to-back now. Obviously, last year, outstanding for the Crusaders, and you backed it up again this year. In terms of coming into this Irish series, you've got the opportunity to potentially come up against your old Nelson College, Tasman Marco teammate, and James Lowe. Are you excited by that prospect?
Yeah, it's actually... I was actually with the old man just yesterday and sort of had that back of his head, questioning... if the opportunity does come, make sure, give him a bit of run for his money. But, definitely exciting. I remember my last year at school, I was fortunate to be able to attend the Tasman Marco trainings, and at the time he was there, and, also had a few good conversations with him and good yarns, and, it's awesome to see him over there in the green, but, it's also exciting for me here to maybe, hopefully, in a few weeks, get that black jersey on, so, yeah.
Run it straight?
Oh, it's going to take a bit more to get over that guy, but yeah.
He doesn't like to tackle.
I haven't seen that yet, but I guess we've got to test that with a good opportunity, so yeah.
In terms of the Irish, Roger, what have the teammates been telling you about them to expect from this team coming down under?
Yeah, just watching from last year and talking to the boys, they're a big pack and they always try new things. They play the game a lot different up there, and for me, I'm just excited to see how Bundy Aki goes. He's a close family friend of mine too, so just excited to get on the field and sort of test my skills against him.
Now, kit day at the start I saw on social media for a young guy, newbie coming in. Is it as good as it looks, Lester? Was there a favourite bit or a favourite amount of kit that you got?
I think you always hear about it from the boys, and obviously see videos the past few years, and to be able to obviously be right there in those shoes was obviously exciting. Really humbled to be able to get supply there. Almost felt like Christmas and my birthday the same day. So I think it's only benefits my family, not myself. So yeah, a whole lot of clothes getting stolen at home. So yeah. What
size shoes, boys? I'm 13 and a half. Any spares?
Oh, you missed me. US 11.
Oh, right.
Just bigger than me, yeah. So.
Well, lastly, before we go, if you do get the chance to dot, I know John Kerwin will be watching this, and he's a real fan of the fins up. Can you make sure that you get that up if you do get a chance to dot down?
Oh, 100%. It's your small thing, so yeah.
All the best, boys, and congratulations once again. I wish you all the best for the Irish series.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, Joey, not the fins up, JK.
Well, did you ask Roger to do anything?
What's the Auckland sign?
Oh, we just play it cool, mate.
Latte drinking.
We just walk back.
Playing it so cool. That's
a bit of a strike.
Pull the collar up.
Yeah.
Nice interview, Joey, with 2 of the newbies, 2 out of the 5 that are involved in this squad. But who is ready to take that step up to the next level, Jeff?
Well, they're all really, because they've been selected. That's what the selectors have looked at them and said on their form and the skill set they're showing, they believe they can be All Blacks. of the players, the new players, I think Leicester Whanganuku is the one for me who is going to be the closest to not necessarily just being on the bench. He may start the first test. I look at the fact that Caleb Clark hasn't had a lot of rugby in the last 6 weeks. Since his hamstring injury, I can't see Caleb getting an opportunity in the first time. I could be mistaken here, but I'm looking for a power winger. I think the combination of him and Will Jordan, if Geordie Barrett's at the back, to me gives the balance. He's had a great season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he starts. I think, you know, Havili and Whanganuku in the final were outstanding, and I think he's done enough to go. I agree. If it's Will, then we need a big, dominant winger, and so I think he starts for sure.
Can I ask you something, Joey? Do you think that the selection of newbies will be determined by injuries? Because we're still not sure whether Aaron Smith is available, which could bring Folau in, of course, or Geordie Barrett. That's
exactly what I was going to allude to. How bad is Aaron Smith's groin? And I think
touch and go, they say.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think if Folau Whakatawa was to be unleashed on the international stage in the cauldron on Eden Park against the Irish, that's exciting for me. I think Aaron's going to be right from all accounts. But yeah, gee, I think he'll definitely test match in this series. No, he'll come off the bench. Finlay will definitely start, I would have thought. JK, I just think Finlay's kicking game's obviously superior. But yeah, I agree with both of you. I think Leicester Whanganuku's going to be the guy potentially on the left wing, but I can't wait to see Folau Whakatawa have a crack. And Roger, I think they're going to light it up.
Yeah, but someone said Geordie's not good. Did I hear that?
Injury.
Voce di corridoio, by the way, so it might not be true.
Well, knee. It looks as though he's carrying a knee at the moment. It's heavily strapped at the moment, so we haven't heard anything more. That was reported in the paper yesterday, I think, that he's been sort of carrying a little bit of knee. But if he could
Joey,
play...
when you snuck into the hotel, did you not find out anything else?
Can't see the dock. First question you can't see.
You were dressed like the rubbishman, mate. I expect you to bloody...
That's how I got in there.
Exactly. So you should have gone and asked the chef.
I just come from Dunedin and needed my merinos on down there.
You were sweating up a storm, to be fair. You were sweating up a storm.
Warm.
You look nice now, Joey. Well, let's talk about this Irish side. We have to give them the time that they deserve, because the fear factor has gone from this team, hasn't it? They're no longer scared to come and play the All Blacks.
Well, JK, you know this is the fact. When you're playing against a side that's never beaten you, it's one of those things where they've got a hurdle to overcome, not just what's happening on the field, but history, the legacy. And I remember when I played against Ireland, played against Wales, played against Fiji, it's the fact that all of a sudden you knew there was something that they had to overcome, that they were going to struggle with. Because bottom line, when it's never been done before, you don't have a belief that's been behind you. This team's got a belief, and it's not just on the back of one win, it's on multiple wins now. So that's the biggest thing Joe Schmidt, for me, did for Ireland, has given them the confidence to take on the All Blacks. They've come here, they are well coached, they're well prepared. Like I say, they actually got a bit of a break. They got an extra week off. Their teams got knocked out in the semi-final stage of their competition back home. So that's helpful for them. I think they're coming here with one thing in mind, and one thing only, is to win a Test series, and I think they are the real deal.
They're looking to create history, aren't they?
I think the two Northern Hemisphere sides that have taken some Southern Hemisphere style and made it better and added their own style. I think that like France and Ireland are the two best European sides, I believe, on their day. You know, you were there, Goldie, you and I on the sideline when they beat us over there, and they were outstanding. And they're outstanding, Joey, in their attack patterns. I saw stuff out there that day that I'd never seen before. So, you know, I think they probably go in, besides being away from home, they go in favourites.
Inside that's won the last three.
They beat us last time.
Last 3 out of 5 Test matches against the All Blacks. You've got to be really confident you can do it. The favourites.
Ridiculous comment.
The favourites.
JK, to say that they are the favourites coming in. Hold on, it's the end of a tour, at the end of the year,
they are
and you're saying they
beat us last time.
Are you trying to say the All Blacks are underdogs at home?
At Eden
That's
Park.
what I'm saying.
Serious? At Eden Park.
That is what I'm saying, loud and clear.
Kidding me.
Excuse me.
Okay,
If you want to beat the All Blacks, hang on a second. If you want to beat the All Blacks, who won the last Test?
Yeah, they did win the last Test.
Okay,
but
so that means they're coming
never won
favourite.
a Test in New Zealand. They've never won a Test in New Zealand, let alone...
Irrelevant. They come in favourites, we're the underdogs.
Have you been smoking those cigars before?
We are underdogs. Look at the proof. Out of the last 4 games, who's won the majority?
Well, they've won 3 out of the last 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, but they've
Makes
all
them
been in
favourite.
Ireland or in the US, mate.
What was the
US
most
or
significant
Ireland.
of those games? It was a
Never in-
quarter-final in a Rugby World Cup, and how much did we put on them? We put 50 on them. So bottom line, look, when it comes down to it, there's no doubt they're a threat. They've got some talent. Jonathan Sexton is world-class. Jamison Gibson-Park has become a quality halfback at the international level. And their forward pack, Joey, is, look, the development of the way that their props play the game. We recognise all of the threats. There's no doubt about it. But to say they're the favourites against the All Blacks in New Zealand, Andy Farrell's thinking to himself, what's JK on?
We're underdogs.
We're not the underdogs.
We are the
We're not-
underdogs.
The pressure is still on.
I'm sure the
isn't it?
TAB won't agree with you either. But the fact that how long's it been? How long's it been since we've lost to them at Eden Park? It lost to anybody.
We haven't lost, to anybody at Eden Park. I couldn't tell you.
Exactly.
I don't think I was.
So
yeah.
are you seriously telling me? Are you guys seriously telling me that Eden Park is the difference?
Well,
You're not saying that the last,
they're going to help.
last five
Certainly gonna help in the
games.
first game.
I'll go back to you, Joey. The last 5 games, they've won 3. Does that not make them favourites?
No, it doesn't, because they've all been either in Ireland or in the US, not in New Zealand. We haven't lost to Ireland in New Zealand. So I just can't. That's just.
I'm glad we
it's
spent 4
ridiculous.
minutes talking about Ireland.
You've been on the
favourites.
grapper or something.
Wow. Give him a weekend off and look what happens. Look, I'll tell you what, I've been busy.
I'm just stating statistics.
Okay. You're going by
You're
the
entitled
stats.
to your opinion.
All right, I'm going by the fact
The All
that-
Blacks are
I'm going by the
underdogs, and I
legacy
love
of
it
the
when
All
we're
Blacks.
underdogs. I love it when we're underdogs.
We're hardly ever the underdogs. You know that.
So
for a
were the
fact.
Crusaders.
JK, I have been
Oh,
busy
okay.
though for you. I've been busy. You've been asking for a couple of years now since Silver Lake's been on the fringe and we're finally there. You've wanted me to get some stuff.
I want to know where's the money going?
Where's the money going?
And did you get any for us?
For you. I've got it for the betterment of New Zealand Rugby. I caught up with Steve Lancaster, who's the General Manager of Community Rugby for New Zealand Rugby. I caught up with him during the week and he gave us all of the breakdown of exactly where this first investment's going in New Zealand Rugby. We'd have to say, Steve, it's been an unbelievable 2 years. You think what New Zealand Rugby's had to go through. Big launch this week of reimagining rugby. But before we talk about that, let's talk about what's happened over those last 2 years. The fact that all the things New Zealand Rugby faced through COVID and to where you are now. What's happened in those 2 years?
Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of years. So we've taken a few hits, as have a lot of sports and a lot of industries. We had a lot of plans in place. We've done a lot of work pre-COVID on how we're going to reimagine rugby, how we ensure that the community game stays strong, stays healthy. And then over the last couple of years, we've simply had to cut funding to programs, cut people, cut resources. And so now we're at a point of almost ground zero, I guess, where hopefully we can put that behind us. We've got our members' approval to move ahead with Silver Lake, and that allows us to start investing in growing the game again.
So let's talk about the fact, has this been the reset everyone was talking about? Because that was the conversation that CEO Mark Robinson was talking about. This is the chance for us to reset and look at things. Has that happened? Is this where this new reimagining rugby is going? And what are the major concerns going forward?
This gives us the opportunity for the reset that we're talking about. I mean, I think it would be naive to say that executing a transaction with Silver Lake is the reset in itself. But what it enables us to do is look at the future and plan for the future with resource behind us, with capability in the business that allows us to execute plans, that allows us to invest in new programs, invest in existing programs, and ensure that we can actually build into the future from a position of strength.
So if we look at what's happening now and we look at the game and we look at the community game and you look at Silver Lake has taken a long time to get across the line.
Yeah.
Everyone's asking though where the investment is going to go. Look, what's the first port of call when you think about what Silver Lake's going to provide? What does that give back to the community game?
Yeah, so we've been really clear from day one that we see Silver Lake's investment benefiting the whole game, but we've also been very, very clear that the community game is an absolute priority and that we see this transaction giving us the opportunity to really invest in the community game. So in the short term, there'll be some distributions into the game, into provincial unions, into clubs and into our other members and critical stakeholders. So in the case of provincial unions, each NPC union will receive a $1 million distribution. Each Heartland union will receive a $500,000 distribution. And that's really to enable them to have their houses in order, to have the resilience to withstand any shocks that we might experience in the future, and to have a strong base across the system in which to move forward. Community clubs will also benefit, so there's a $7.5 million pot that we've allocated for distributions to community clubs. We recognise that we wouldn't be in a position to have Silver Lake invest in the business if it wasn't for the contribution that our clubs have made over the years. We're still working through exactly what the entitlements will be. Obviously there's a variety of clubs, different membership sizes, different settings. So we're working with our provincial unions at the moment on what the scale of that distribution will be. But there's $7.5 million there that will be applied directly into the community game.
What specifically is the role of each individual provincial union?
Yeah, so we actually asked ourselves and them exactly that question a couple of years ago. We went through an exercise of defining what is the purpose of a provincial union, and where we landed through a collaborative process was that the role of provincial unions is to foster the community game and to enable pathways to higher performance. So it's really about enabling their communities to have strong community games, and for those that have aspiration and potential to be able to access pathways to fulfil that.
So each individual union has been given a financial boost. How much of a role will New Zealand Rugby play in where that investment in the game is made in the community?
In the short term, we want to be relatively hands-off. So the intention is that the distributions get to the provincial unions as quickly as possible. So we've set 3 criteria for those distributions. The first is that provincial unions clear any debt that they might have to NZR. We're talking a very small number of unions in that case. The second is that they meet a reserves threshold so that we ensure that they've got the resilience financially to withstand any future challenges or shocks. Beyond that, we're simply asking that they invest any surplus in strategic rugby initiatives. We're not prescribing what those are, but what we are asking is that we receive a copy of a board resolution from each provincial union that sets out how they intend to invest those funds.
Is high performance and an NPC team, for example, is that deemed a place they should invest?
No, so that is one area that we wouldn't be comfortable releasing funds for investment into. We've been very clear right through this process, and the provincial unions have agreed with us that the area of greatest need is the community game, and that's really where we want to see this investment applied. So coming back to provincial unions' purpose and anchoring investment decisions around that, it's about fostering the community game, it's about enabling pathways to higher performance, so player development initiatives, absolutely, but we would draw the line at further investment into professional teams and programs.
This isn't a one-off payment though, right? There's an ongoing commitment to the community game going forward.
Yeah, so in the short term there's a distribution which will land very quickly for provincial unions, as I say, that really to get their house in order. And then beyond that, we've also agreed a significant uplift in year-on-year funding for provincial unions. So pre-COVID, we were funding provincial unions to the tune of about $29 million across all 26. That will increase to at least $40 million per annum going forward. So a significant uplift in investment into provincial unions and provincial rugby.
So much talk about a thing called the Legacy Fund. What is the Legacy Fund?
Yeah, so the Legacy Fund's probably the third major element of community investment that will arise from the Silver Lake transaction. So initially there'll be a $60 million endowment established, and then our intention is that that $60 million is preserved over time, but that returns on that $60 million, investment returns, are invested back into the game. And in particular, we want to see that invested into community rugby priorities. So it'll operate a little bit like a gaming trust. There'll be a panel or an advisory group that will oversee applications and make recommendations to the NZR board for distributions. And again, that panel will have significant representation from the community game. Provincial unions will certainly have seats on that body, along with the NZR, and we will ensure that money is invested into sort of big ticket items or projects or pilots or initiatives that will continue to sustain the community game.
Look, everyone's heard the saying, work smarter, not harder.
Yep.
Do you think New Zealand Rugby's at that point now when you get that type of security in the provincial game that they can take more responsibility for the game in regards to coaching development, referee development, sideline behaviour, the support of those clubs? Is that the direction New Zealand Rugby is heading in terms of give the provincial unions the tools to deliver for their players, their management, their coaches, referees?
Yeah, so one thing we're really clear on is that with the scale of our game, NZ Rugby can't deliver everything, and we shouldn't. So the provincial unions are critical to fostering the game. And when I talk about that uplift in provincial union funding in particular, they will now have the means to invest significantly in initiatives that address all of those things that you've just mentioned. So coach and referee development, safe and inclusive environments, player recruitment, secondary school rugby, all of those areas are areas that we can now invest in. One of the other things, though, that we're really clear on is don't expect this to change our world overnight, because working smarter and not harder also doesn't mean just throwing lots of money at a problem. And so we want to ensure that we're really measured and strategic in how we invest in the future of the game. And so that might take us a little while before we start actually investing in programs and then seeing the benefit of those programs.
Is there a new energy in the building, given everything that's happened over the last probably 6 months, but everything you've had to deal with over the last 2 years? Clearly you've employed people back, there's directions you can go into, building looks great, like all the things that you want to do, but reality is, do you feel as though as a team you're really optimistic about the direction rugby can go? Yeah, we're really optimistic, and I think the way you describe it, a new energy in the building, that's a really good way of describing this. We've been through a tough couple of years, we don't deny that. A lot of retrenchment, the community game's been impacted, there are less people engaged in the game for a variety of reasons. But having now got the support of our members to move ahead with Silver Lake, there's definitely a hell of a lot of energy in the system and a huge amount of optimism about where we can go. Lastly, when do we find out more then? When do we find out what the next step is? Of course, Reimagining Rugby has been delivered this week, but that was certainly an overview. When do you really start nailing down the details, and the community, the provincial unions, everyone will start seeing some of these initiatives? We've been really mindful of not getting ahead of ourselves. There was no certainty that this would go ahead prior to the SGM 2 weeks ago. So really the work starts now. So we're establishing a number of working groups and different programs involving provincial unions, involving other stakeholders, to really develop the detailed plans around how this will move forward. So in the short term, there'll be cash that will flow into the game through provincial unions, through clubs, and I think we'll see the impact of that quite quickly. But really, in terms of shifting the dial on participation, on keeping young men in the game, on meeting the growing demands for women and girls in the game, for ensuring that the game appeals to as many communities as possible within NZ. Those things are going to take a little bit of time. So don't expect to see things change next season, but I think we will start to see things changing gradually over the next 2-3 years.
There's the key word, change. Silver Lake are here and changes are afoot. Important conversation that you had, Jeff. Did you get all the answers that you were looking for?
Look, they were open, they were honest. He gave me everything I was looking for. Look, what's really interesting for me is that you're talking about trying to change the dial, trying to make changes. All of a sudden, to make that and to compete, you need to invest and be able to grow your game. That's what Silver Lake does. So if we have a look at exactly what it means in terms of this initial 200 million, that is what Silver Lake have delivered. That community distribution that Steve was talking about, 37 million. The legacy fund, 60 million of that. We understand that the New Zealand Rugby Players Association has received 5 million for their reserves to build up their support network, and after associated costs, the remainder, it's going into the New Zealand Rugby Reserve Fund, remembering the stress they were put under over the last couple of years through COVID. So all of a sudden, there's an insurance policy that's sitting there. But there's some really interesting things for me. The changes that are being made, this distribution you're talking about immediately to give some security, but then that increase of $11 million annually, 40 million per annum to the community game, and then the legacy fund, that's 60 million, which is going to be there, JK. We had a lot of question marks at the direction this was going, the concerns, and yes, there's no doubt the Players Association was significantly, heavily involved in terms of their collective bargaining agreement. Their percentage has stayed the same, but I look at this, we know how much we care about the game. Joey, Kirsty, we all care about rugby. Do you see this as giving us the opportunity to get back on the right footing?
Yeah, great interview, mate. Well done. It was awesome.
Well, he did the answering. I just had to ask the questions.
Good questions.
You know? That's the thing.
To answer, you have to ask good questions. So they were good questions. There's a couple of things that I need to know. I think the disconnect has been between what I call professional rugby and amateur rugby, or the community. So who is in charge? I think that possibly the NPC sides or the PU sides thought that NZR were. So moving forward, do we see that all NPC sides have a budget for their elite team and then the rest goes into community? That's the types of things I'd like to see. Everyone should have the same budget so that we know, because there's no use giving someone X amount of money and then they spend 3 million extra on trying to win the, Yeah.
But if that's their prerogative, though...
No, it can't, because the community suffers. This is what I'm saying. I think if we equalise it, and let's just use simple money, 500,000, you can do your NPC side, and you've got to have $1 million spent to the community. And who's in charge of community? That's what I want to know. So that in 5 years' time, we can say, you know, Auckland Rugby or North Harbour Rugby or Northland Rugby is doing a great job in the community. I think we could have those clear. But besides that, I think it's really clear. I love the legacy fund. Let's put it in a fund and let's wait a few years and then start pouring it back into the community so we secure our future. But besides that, I think it was really clear, and I think it's a great thing, Joey.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying, JK. I noted down the frameworks for clubs and unions, and I think that needs to be a directive led by New Zealand Rugby so that it's clear this is what you need to invest in, because that's what excited me about what Steve was saying, the investment in our community game, because we are losing numbers. We're losing young boys. We're losing girls from our game. And, well, the girls' game's growing, but we need to keep investing in that to keep them involved. Not only them, but to attract new talent into our game as well. New administrators, new volunteers. Everyone in that community game need to be rewarded and feel like they're actually making a difference in growing these young girls and boys to become hopefully All Blacks one day. And I think we've sort of lost sight of that over the last few years, and I think some significant investment and in those strategic rugby initiatives, as long as the framework's right from New Zealand Rugby and the unions implement it and don't put it into the professional arm, then I think we're going to be in a really good place in 5 years' time, and we're going to have a game that's growing rather than dwindling.
I'm in a really good place tonight, though. I'm asking
Your
the trivia.
quizmaster.
I'm asking the trivia. We've been under so much pressure, pressure. This is opportunity for you at home in the break to work out what it is you might think the answer is. So, the Maori All Blacks, who are taking on Ireland this week, they have played 6 nations opponents 14 times. How many?
12 times.
12 times, sorry. 12 times. How many times have they won? Out of the 12, how many times have they won?
So I'll repeat that. You're saying the Maori All Blacks
have they played the Six Nations team
opponents 12 times. How many
times
wins do they have? Are the Lions not included in that?
No. No, they're not included in that.
Good
Gives
question.
you an opportunity.
Great question.
We've got an opportunity for you to win some tickets to the captain's run on the Friday for the 3 test matches. That'll be after the trivia answer. But it is Doco week, or Doco season here at Sky. And Tuesday night at 7 p.m, one of the very best, the legacy of the Maori All Blacks.
He tima Māori, he tima whutu pōgu. We're a Māori team, we're a rugby team.
It's got a massive history. This team is all about upholding the legacy and the mana of the team.
Our environment is unique. Our environment sets success. It oozes success.
If we do our tikanga right, magic happens.
It's just that wairua, you know, you can feel it.
Willie Walker puts the kick in field. It's another try. We go here.
It was always a personal determination to try and get on top of my opposition. That was the natural challenge that came to my blood.
Always acknowledging those that paved the way for the present group to aspire to and to reach the lofty heights that those people were able to play at.
Outside, Charlie outside the captain. Dan Fryer wins the game.
I always used to think of the Māori team as a opatawa. We're a war party and we're going to do battle.
It's in our blood. We're warriors. We come from a line of warriors.
If we prepare well, we can beat any team in the world.
And the Māori have a famous victory. They've come so close so often, but tonight they have done it.
You can actually look at each member in the team and know that you fuck up back to each other.
The whole connected by blood is so different. I can be myself.
I rated up there right beside the All Black jersey. I played for my people, I played for my country, and I think it's a great honour.
Every time I put on this jersey, I'm not only representing myself, my hapu, my iwi, I'm representing all Māori, not only in New Zealand, but all across the world.
The winds of time will never blow the sands into there to fill it, because it's just too deep.
To lead a team like this, it's something I don't take for granted, eh? It's just time to unleash and let it all flow.
George Napier, you know, everyone knows George Napier. I got a chance to meet him, just to shake the hand of the man. And that's a memory that'll always stay with me.
That was a name that was a legend. You know, names like that. Thought, oh, well, would I like to be like that?
When you look at George Napier, I've never seen him play, but when you read about the things that he used to do, legends.
I was fortunate enough to have him with us in South Africa, just to have him in the room. They had a lot of mana. One of the greatest fullbacks that ever played the game for the All Blacks and for the Māoris.
It is such an important jersey. It is such an important part of the fabric here in New Zealand. That story, Legacy, will be told 7 p.m, Sky Sport 1 on Tuesday. So make sure you put it in the calendar. But I've taken my hat off today. You're quizmaster over there.
And that's some sort of legacy if you start thinking about the results. This is the question, and make sure you're listening at home because you're going to need this answer. The Maori All Blacks have played Six Nations opponents 12 times. How many wins do they have? Joey, you should know this.
I know I should.
You've played for them. You should know this deep down.
I'm going to say 9 test wins.
No, you're incorrect.
6.
You're incorrect as well. And I'm going to go to Kirsty because I've got a feeling you'll know this.
Do I get to play?
You get to play.
Tough one,
12.
but I'm going to say 8.
Bang on. Bang on.
Genius.
There's no surprises
put me in
there
every
that you
week.
got there. They've played England 4 times and they've won 2, lost 2. Here it is. France, 2 for 2. Ireland, 2 for 2. Scotland, 2 for 2. They haven't beaten Wales. They haven't beaten Wales, but that's remarkable when you think about that as a record. Absolutely remarkable.
You mentioned, oh, sorry, we've got a competition as well.
We've got a competition because of that, so you know the number is 8. So it's purely and simple. Yeah. If you want to go and watch the captain's run for the All Blacks, then this is what you need to do. We've got 2 double passes to give away to watch the All Blacks captain's run in Auckland, thanks to Ford, the official sponsor of the All Blacks. It's on a Friday afternoon before the test, all right? You'll be in to win. Listen, and you've heard it. The trivia question, email us the answer at thebreakdown@sky.co.nz. There's no flights or accommodation. Bottom line, you get to watch the All Blacks in their last little bit of preparation the day before a test match. And these are 3 huge test matches. Make sure you get into one. I can't wait.
Yeah, and there's a couple of other massive matches. The first one is coming up between Ireland and the Maori All Blacks on Wednesday. We'll be live from 6:30 on Sky. But Joey, you've been in this environment. You've been on campaigns with this team. How special is it? Gives me goosebumps watching that.
Yeah, it does. It gave me goosebumps watching it back. I think, yeah, a real honour to play for that team. A huge amount of pride. I think for me going into that environment, it was real eye-opening. Like, I learned so much about our culture, and I think that's the other great side of that is nothing's forced in that environment. You go into environments these days and, you know, you're looking for inspiration from different places to connect the team. That team is instantly connected through blood, and I think Ash alluded to it in that promo for the legacy is it's just so natural. You come in there and you connect instantly with all the guys, and you look around the room, the history of that team, the players that have played in that jersey, the superstars that have been there, nothing's forced. And my experience was so awesome. Like, I think back 2013, we toured North America, and I still remember us doing haka practice, and we're having to come up in 4s and perform the haka in front of Liam Messam, Piriwepu and Hika Elliott. And the honesty from those guys when we were going through the haka was unbelievable.
What feedback
from
did you
the
get?
tone of voice, how you were poo-cuttering, the actions, how strong you looked, how you were standing. Everything was about how we reflected in that team, the strength and being warriors. It's such a special team, and it's going to be a special series. For them to play Ireland twice is just awesome in our own backyard because they don't get to do that often in New Zealand. Last time I think it was 2017 we played the Lions. So yeah, special.
Yeah, I mean, I just I think just beautiful watching that, and I can't wait for Wednesday night. You know, we had Buck come into our environment, and I always remember saying, "JK, you need to come to my room. That's ridiculous. You need to do this way better." And it was a beautiful thing for me as well, mate, because you know, just understanding it a bit more, just understanding you know, he said to me one thing, you know, the person standing 30 yards away, how can you transmit all your power and all the things that you care about over there. And that was just changed my whole world. But I have another question though. What about you, Goldie? Like for you, Wednesday night, do we learn anything about the Irish?
There's such a talented side going out there to play. The next 3 weeks for me, the best of the best. We've got the best of Ireland and we've got the best of the Maori All Blacks and All Blacks playing together. I can't wait. There's 3 weeks. We've got something to talk about next Sunday.
Is anyone picking the favourites, Ireland, ahead of the first one?
I didn't say they're favourites. I said we're underdogs.
Said favourite.
No, you did. You said they're favourites.
Not in the All Blacks game, though.
I knew it would happen.
When we
are
come back
underdogs.
next Sunday, we will be talking about the first test and the Maori All Blacks against Ireland as well. Lovely to have your company tonight.